So here we are with our third and last video for detailing and creating details for our sheets of our project. So we talked about before, we have a couple of different ways of keynoting or adding annotation. We have text, we have your material tagging, and then we also have the actual keynoting. So if we were to start off with text, very simple process. You have the ability here of basically selecting an object and typing whatever text you want that to be. Alright, so if we zoom out here a little bit, we'll turn on our crop view, and we'll see here that if we expand this out, we can see our information. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the size of that text. So as you can see here, we've added simply saying a ceiling system. That would be just basic text. The other type is the material tag. With the material tag, as you can see, some of the parts and pieces it finds, i.e. our interior finishes, things like that. But mostly with this, if we select this, we can bring it out here. And then once it's there, we can simply say what it actually is called. So if this is just a wood floor system, we can leave it at that. We'll go ahead and stretch this out. Alright, now the next time my material tag pops up, as you can see, when I bring my cursor over next to this area that we assigned as a wood floor system, it picks up the same information. It remembers everything that you gave it. Okay, so the other part is using the keynote. Okay, so if we look here, we have an element keynote, we have material keynote, and we have a user-defined keynote. Well, if we start with the element keynote, and we bring our cursor in here, you're going to notice that the entire wall system is outlined in purple, or the entire floor system, or the entire ceiling system. Okay, so if we select the wall system, okay, it's going to ask us to actually give it a keynote. Well, we don't have any keynotes specifically set up to be, a complete CMU on metal stud wall system. Okay, so if we had one, we would create it in that particular format. For right now, though, what we're going to do is we're going to take the element one and we're going to delete it. We're going to move down the list until we get to material keynotes. So now with the material keynote, you'll notice here that it doesn't really pick anything in particular up. But what I can do is I can start it on my CMUs. I can go down to my masonry. I can go to my concrete unit masonry. And I can say that this is an 8x8 CMU. Or maybe it's a split face, or whatever it could be. So we'll go with an 8x8x16 split face CMU, and we'll say OK. So as you can see here now, it's assigned that. Now, because I'm still in placement mode, each time I put my cursor over that same repeating detail of the CMU, it's going to pick up the same keynote. Whereas if I move it, it's going to move it it's going to let me select another object. So let's say we did it for our insulation. Okay. So we'll go in here to our thermal, which is division 7. We'll go in here to our thermal insulation, and we'll give it just a basic insulation type. We'll call it R19, and we'll say OK. So again, each time I go over each of these, it's going to change it to that respected. Even up here, even though we did it as two different insulations, it's going to show this as a different insulation, as insulation, which is what we have down here. Okay. The next type of keynote is the user keynote, and that is basically I can select anything I want, because as you can see here as I go through this, it picks up the complete elements of the floor system, the wall system, the ceiling system, or it lets me pick up individual parts and pieces. So for example, it's selecting that stud, so I can come over here and actually call out that stud. So we'll go into our metals, we'll go into our stud framing, and we'll simply say that's a 6-inch metal stud. So again, as you can see, it's letting me select that stud, but it's not giving me a predetermined keynote number because I'm in user defined. So whatever I want it to be, that's what I can make it. So in this particular case, if I select the channel stud, again, we'll go through the same process. We'll go back into our metals, we'll go into our framing, and we'll say it's a 6-inch channel stud. Okay. And that is the beginning process of keynoting. Remember, with keynoting, you have your annotation view, which is the dash, and you have the crop view.